everyone. I'm honored to be opening this day, the second day of Trusted Economy Forum. I think the day, and I'm sure the day will be filled with discussions about new technologies, exciting possibilities. Still, I'd like to add a different flavor to it, a customer-centric flavor to this mix, highlighting the topic of business value of design. So, before we start talking about design maturity, and I introduce this subject, I want to give you a short story. It's not a story about me. It's about a friend who is technically oriented, very experienced with digital devices and services, with almost 30 years of using different devices, but still, it didn't save him from how the story ended. And the story ended like this. He was trying to use his electronic signature for the first time, and it ended like this. This is where he gave up. This is where he was fed up with the process, and we might ask ourselves, okay, so what really happened? What happened before? Why did he abandon the process? Well, the story seemed pretty simple. So his company ordered a number of electronic signatures for the team members, and he received one of them. And there was an activation procedure, onboarding procedure, and then came the day to actually use the signature and sign a document. A colleague asked him to sign a document. So the job seemed simple, so he opened up his favorite PDF reader and trying to do this. But actually, he found out he needs to configure a number of modules, add some important libraries, but he wasn't sure how to do it, so he went to help articles, then he went to YouTube tutorials, then he contacted the customer support, and the customer support told him that there's a file, a library that is missing, the PKCS module, which I mentioned before, which I showed before. And he tried to upload it and configure this in the PDF reader, and this is where he failed, and this is where he was fed up. So why did he abandon this? So didn't he have enough will to continue, or maybe he didn't have enough time to continue? Well, it took him about an hour to get here. What was the reason for that? Well, we'll probably never know, and we'll probably never know how many of those stories actually happen, right? Because if we think about experience like this, after experiencing something like this, will a customer file a complaint? Will the customer ask for a refund? Probably not, right? But will the customer become a loyal customer? Will my friend recommend this service? Will he trust this service? Probably not as well. So we see here that probably there's some kind of paradox with trust services and with many complex products. So if we look from the product team perspective, we're dealing with very complex products based on many modules, integrated systems, that deliver the value. But if we look from the customer perspective, we just expect the job to be done, right? And done well. So there's a huge gap between those two. How do we fix this gap? Well, is it something product design can help us with? Yes, probably. Probably product design can help. But is this something designers can just sit down and fix? No. Not on their own, right? Because you see that this wasn't really a user interface problem, not something that you can just design in a user interface. And we see this all the time. Products get more beautiful, slick, but there's only so much designers can do on their own, right? If the whole organization has other priorities, there's a limit to what we can actually fix. So design maturity runs more deeper than just the user interface. And more and more research shows that companies that treat design really seriously can generate like twice the business results in terms of income and return on investment than the market average. But the same research shows that product design maturity is not about just hiring some experts and giving them tools to work, but it's about the right leadership, the right work environment, the right culture that helps them collaborate and innovate as well. So we are part of an association called UX Alliance, and with our partners internationally in UX Alliance, we believe design maturity is actually composed of 6 dimensions that connect with each other. Research and design dimensions are described how to stay close to the customer, how to learn about the customers, how to define the right design objectives, and make sure the design work is done with impact and efficiency. Then there are people and culture dimensions, which focus on the right set of skills that we need to have, the right capabilities, but also the right way to collaborate inside the company and innovate, and how we encourage actually people to be innovative. And then there are metrics and strategy dimensions, which focus on measuring design outcomes against business objectives and making sure the design is really aligned with the long-term vision of the company. So any kind of maturity, building any kind of maturity is a strategic challenge and strategic effort, but every effort has its first steps, right? So we might wonder, with trust services, what are the things that we should focus on the most? I'd like to share 3 guidelines today concerning that. The first guideline is about focusing on outcomes, not on the output. This is actually a hot topic in product management today in all the industries, outcomes over output, and I fully support that. And I would even go further by saying it's actually experiences over products. We tend to believe that the output we build and the features we add to products is the most important thing. But actually, what we should care about is the outcomes, meaning the customer value, the value perceived by the customer in form of the user journey and user experiences during the whole journey. So to illustrate this, let's look at product roadmaps. So it's very easy to believe that product development is about adding new features, right? We believe that some features are needed in the product, so we try to plan how to add them. But there's a big pitfall in this, because in many cases, these are the features that our company believes are needed, or our management believes. So we might think that, okay, so we think the SMS authentication feature is needed for our e-signature, and the virtual negotiations module, our boss really likes it, and everyone supports it, so we should build it in the next step. It sounds very exciting. But are we really sure we need those features? Do we know that they really matter to customers? Do we know that they will actually improve customers' lives? This is a difficult question, and the feature-oriented roadmap doesn't really answer it. So this is why the concept of outcome-based roadmaps gets really popular nowadays, and outcome-based roadmaps start with outcomes, start with the effect we want to have on users' life, the description of the result we want to bring to customer value, and they include metrics that help us measure this, whether we succeeded or not, and only after that we think about features. Because the thing is, we need to stop falling in love with our solutions and products. We need to start falling in love with the problems we solve for the customer, actually. The second guideline is being hungry for feedback. So I know a lot of companies say that they listen to their customers, but the thing is, listening to your customers is not enough anymore. We need to really go deeper with that. This is where probably user research comes in, where we need to observe how users really interact with our products. We need to observe how they interact with competitors' products. We need to observe how they interact with prototypes of our future products. And we need to learn about the context of their work, of their life, by also observing, by talking, by listening, of course, but also by observing this. And this is the way we generate insights that feed the product design process, but also product management process. So, and this is not just about insights. This is also about metrics. We can use different kinds of experience metrics frameworks to help us measure this against business objectives, but also help to measure the product quality. This is an example we are using. It's called UX Index Pyramid, and it's built on layers of user experience. So it focuses on whether people can actually use the service, can they fulfill their goals, but then was it easy for them? What kind of effort was needed? Then was the engagement big enough? And what's the overall satisfaction? So after using metrics like this, we can see that maybe everyone was able to finish the task because the lowest level looks fine, but people had trouble understanding the service, and maybe the competition did it better. So metrics can be a powerful tool also for product roadmap prioritization. The third guideline I want to share today is the intention and the requirement for building towards a collaborative culture. It's about collaboration. So with one of our brands, Talents Ocean, we supply product designers to many international companies. And so it's kind of an outsourcing model. But what we found out is that when those people work there, they don't really do that much of design work itself. We discovered that they work as agents of change, more like agents of change going across different departments, across different stakeholders. This is what UX and product design often starts to become, like a glue connecting different stakeholders and helping them collaborate. Many UX and service design methods are actually about workshops, about inviting co-creation and inviting different stakeholders to work together. And the biggest value of design comes from the situation where everyone believes that improving customer journey is actually everyone's job. It's not the job of just the designers. So then we can focus on the whole user journey and think about the pain points, think about also the enjoyment points, and start discovering what we can actually improve here. And we only can succeed here if everyone's on board, different teams are on board to focus on that, focus on the customer journey. And actually design works as a facilitation towards it. So with those three guidelines in mind, you probably see the connection between the dimensions I mentioned and the guidelines we could have. Design maturity is also something you can diagnose. Actually, this is something that we've been working on in UX Alliance for the last couple of years to help companies kind of measure their maturity, but most importantly, see what kinds of improvements they can make, where should they focus, because it's often difficult to see this inside the company, being inside the company. Still, I really encourage you to think about those guidelines and about those dimensions of maturity and compare them to your organization and see what kind of improvement would be beneficial for you. And I can guarantee you this will help not only the services, the quality of services you provide, but also the motivation of the teams and effectiveness of the teams. But if there's one thought I could leave you with, and I want to leave you with, it's a reminder that trust is not a feature. It's not a product or service or anything that we just deliver and cross out of the bucket list. Trust is an emotional response experienced by the customer if we did our job well, right? If we did this job well. And to achieve that, this is probably one of our biggest tasks as organizations, as product managers. Many thanks for that. I hope that was interesting. If you want to chat about product design or design maturity, let's connect on LinkedIn. Thank you very much. I think my time has just run out.